Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about the top foundations that I would recommend from the drugstore. Today I have 5 foundations that I go between on a daily basis that I'm going to share with you, and then I also have an honorable mention that I want to share too. So if you are interested in my recommendations for the top 5 foundations from the drugstore, then please stay tuned. So the first thing I want to do before I get into the foundations is talk about what I typically go for in a foundation formula. So I have a very dry skin type. I also have very pale skin. So sometimes it is very difficult for me to find a drugstore foundation that the formula is good, that is also light enough for my skin. I look for a formula that is medium to buildable full coverage. So on a daily basis, I like just a medium coverage foundation, but I want the foundation to also be buildable. So if I have like a special event or just anything where I want a more full coverage, I want that foundation to be able to build on itself and achieve the full coverage look as well. I also look for a formula that is not too matte and not too luminous, so I generally go for a foundation that is a natural or a satin finish. I think matte skin is beautiful on some people, but I think on myself it looks too flat. But I find that luminous skin on me I just think it looks oily sometimes. So I want my foundations to kind of hit that middle mark, more of a natural satin finish. I also look for a formula that is not going to cling to my dry spots, that kind of smooths over any pores or fine lines. I like it to look like a soft focus. Basically, I just want to look like a porcelain doll. Okay, so that is what I prefer in my foundations, and you'll hear me say the same things over and over when I'm talking about these foundations because they genuinely do what I want them to do in a foundation. So let's go ahead and get started with the foundations. The first foundations that I want to talk about is the Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage Foundation. This is a 24-hour foundation. I have never worn it for 24 hours, but this is a foundation that I can really go to if I need my makeup to last for a really long time. This is a very matte formula, but I find that if I just really hydrate my skin beforehand, use a really smoothing and hydrating primer, and then set it with my Catrice Dewy Glow setting spray, this foundation is stunning. It looks really good for a long amount of time. It smooths over your pores, and it just looks beautiful, and it looks really good even after being outside in the heat. So if you have like summer weddings coming up that you are either in, or you're the bride, or you're a guest, this one is not going to it's not going to fail you. It's so good. This is also the foundation that I mix with any of my other foundations that just don't last as long as I would like them to, because the longevity on this product is beautiful. I go between the color 102 Fair Porcelain and 110 Porcelain. Generally, I can get away with 110, but if I have a foundation that is too dark, I'll put a pump of 102 in, and it just looks so beautiful. If you need your foundation to last all day through heat or rain or whatever and still look matte and soft focused, this is one that you should definitely pick up. The next foundation that I want to talk about is a foundation that I recently rediscovered. When I first tried this foundation, I hated it, but I recently retried it and I'm obsessed. So that is the L'Oreal Infallible Up to 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. This is a pretty new release, but I have really fallen in love with this one. When I first tried it, I tried applying it with a sponge, and I just could not figure out why I was not getting the coverage that I wanted, and it was so frustrating, and so I gave it up for a while. But in the past couple weeks, I retried it using a flat top kabuki brush, and you guys, it is so beautiful. This foundation is a matte foundation. It's more of a natural matte foundation though, so it still looks like skin. And this is the foundation that I am wearing today. And it just looks so matte, but it still looks like skin. I don't feel like it's a really flat formula. So I really like this. Right now I'm wearing the color 400 Pearl. And I also have the color 405 Porcelain, but this one has a broken pump. So I'm not sure if I can wear this color, but the color 400 is pretty yellow on me, but I can usually make it work. I might pick up another bottle of 405 just to see if this one has more of a neutral undertone, but the yellow, I mean, it doesn't look bad on me. This one is beautiful. This one lasts throughout the day. I wouldn't say that this one lasts longer than the Maybelline one, but it definitely gets me through my work day, and it's still beautiful at the end of the day. So the only thing that I will say about this foundation that I don't love is the fragrance. There is kind of it's not an unpleasant fragrance. Like, it smells like something I've smelled before, but I can't really put my finger on it. But it lasts throughout the day. Most of the time, if a product has fragrance in it, it'll go away as the day goes on. But I catch myself like getting a whiff of this foundation even like at 4 and 5 o'clock. And it also like sticks to my brush and my sponge, so even when I'm using a different foundation, I can still smell the L'Oreal Fresh Wear foundation, but it's not an unpleasant smell. But if you are sensitive to fragrance, then just be mindful of that, because you will smell this one all day. The next foundation is a foundation that I actually wore on my wedding day. This is the CoverGirl True Blend Matte Made Foundation, and I wear the color L20. People are floored when I tell them that I wore a CoverGirl foundation in my wedding pictures, but I had been searching for a foundation for my wedding the entire year that I was engaged, and I actually picked this one up after watching somebody on YouTube, and it far exceeded anything that I had tried that entire year. This is a really good daily foundation as well. It's a good matte medium coverage foundation, so it'll even out your skin tone really well, but you can build this up really far into the full coverage spectrum, and it still looks really natural. It still looks like skin. I just love this foundation. The only thing that I had some trouble with on my wedding day was, obviously I was kissing my husband all day, and so it did rub off on my nose. And I was hugging people, and by the end of the night, like, my foundation on jaw area was starting to fade, but it didn't transfer onto like his coat. It didn't fade throughout the day. So yeah, I really recommend this one if you're not going to be like hugging people and kissing your husband all day. This one is so good. The next foundation that I'm going to mention is a foundation that I also recently rediscovered, and that is the CYO Life Proof Foundation. If you guys didn't see my spring tutorial, I raved about this foundation. I got really caught up in trying a lot of foundations that I kind of forgot about this one, but I put it on that day, and oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. The finish on this foundation is, I would say it's more of a satin finish. It's definitely more luminous than like any of the rest of these foundations that I'm talking about, but it's not like an oily luminosity. You can wear this one just like as a light coverage foundation to even out your skin tone but look like skin, but you can really build this one up as well to be full coverage. And when you build it up to full coverage, it doesn't look cakey or too heavy. It's just stunning. It is just beautiful. I wear the color 101, and this is a very good shade match for me. And I will use CYO to mix with foundations that are too flat or too matte for me, and also foundations that are too dark for me. So this is a really good product. I love wearing this one on its own, but I also love mixing it. It's just beautiful, but it's always going to give you just like this beautiful skin-like finish, and I am just obsessed. You find this one on Walgreens.com. It's $7. Most of the time, my color 101 is sold out because it is growing in popularity. So if you can get your hands on this one, you should, and you should probably buy like 3 backups because it is just beautiful. I highly, highly, highly recommend CYO. Okay, and the last foundation in my top 5 is the L'Oreal Pro Matte Foundation. This is very similar to the Fresh Wear foundation, but this one is definitely more matte than that one. I usually wear this one on days where I need my makeup to also look really nice. The longevity is really good on this one, but the only thing I will say about it is that it is a very matte finish. So to make it more skin-like, I typically will use really hydrating skincare. I will use a primer that is also very hydrating, and then I will set it with my Catrice Dewy Glow. But yeah, this one is really good. It says it's a demi matte finish, but yeah, I would say this is definitely way more matte than demi matte. But it's beautiful. It's very soft focus. It's very buildable, so you can get the medium coverage for like day to day, but then you can also get the full coverage for like a special event or going out or anything like that. So I wear the color 101 Classic Ivory, and this is a pretty good shade match for me. So yeah, if you need your foundation to last a really long time, then I definitely recommend picking this one up. The last foundation that I want to mention is the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation. This is an honorable mention because this foundation is beautiful. The finish is beautiful. It has a similar finish to the CYO, but it's a little bit more luminous. The only thing that stinks about this foundation is that the lightest shade, LC1, is way too dark for me. But other than that, this foundation is beautiful. If they came out with like 1 or 2 shades lighter than this one, I could wear this one on its own. But what I will do to make this one work is mix it with the Maybelline 102 foundation, and it helps the longevity and it helps the color a lot more. So if you guys can find a color in this foundation that matches you, the shade range is a little bit lacking. So if you can find the shade that would match you, this foundation looks really healthy. It is a very skin-like foundation, and it's beautiful. It's just too dark for me. Okay guys, so those are my top 5 picks for foundations at the drugstore. These are all catered to pale skin, but obviously they can work if you have deeper skin tone than I do, if you have a little bit of a tan, but I really wanted to focus this video on drugstore foundations that are pale enough for us porcelain dolls. I know how hard it is to find really solid picks at the drugstore, so I hope this was helpful for you guys. But I am curious what drugstore foundations you guys like. If you have a foundation that is more affordable or that can be found at a drugstore, please leave it down in the comments because I am always down to try new affordable foundations. So thank you guys so much for being here today. If you found this video helpful, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe before you go. I upload new videos every Monday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.